Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups, limited beliefs. And we're going to actually get into limited beliefs today and your other issues, because a lot of the foundation of your issues in your relationship or your breakup, the people having the toughest times with a breakup, it's other areas of your life that are affecting that. So it's kind of like, oh, the house is really shaky, but what's the foundation doing? Right? We're going to get into that today. We're going to talk about something I haven't talked a lot about on my channel, but I've incorporated it into my practice. So I've been doing this for over 5 years now. And it's been a journey. It's been an evolution. And I couldn't have predicted, like, oh, in 5 years, this is how I would be doing my coaching and eventually developing it into hypnotherapy at parts. And so today, how hypnosis and guided meditation helps you during a breakup, and actually how hypnosis and guided meditation helps you overall. Okay. So I'm going to share some things with you. I'm going to talk about some notes from a book that I really like called Process Oriented Hypnosis by Michael Yapko. What I'll basically do is take some of the notes that I've taken on my, not Audible, because I don't use Audible for my notes, Kindle, excuse me. Listen to a lot of books on Audible. And I'll also review a guided meditation track that's actually on my other YouTube channel, Clean Mind Today. If you want to check that out, the link's at the top. If you've never experienced hypnosis, it's guided meditation. So it's just a different wording. I'll get into explaining that a little bit more. But before we get started, I just want to say hello to Eduardo Martinez, Rye Flint. You are appreciated. I'm glad you're on deck first and foremost. G Money, I think you'll like this one. Wina and D Snuts, who wins name of the day, right? So just to get started, right? Like 5 years ago when I started this journey, I was just taking people's stories and just telling you, hey, look, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a master's degree. I'm just going to give you my take and be honest with you about your breakup. And being someone that I went through a bad breakup and came out of it, I'd already done all the research that I needed to do, which, to be honest, right now, there's too much information. There's too many snake oil salesmen out there. A lot of the things that we go through, right? The ways out of them, the recipes out, are more simplistic than YouTube would suggest at this point, than the internet would suggest, because everything's geared towards selling you some kind of get your ex back quick, or you got to do this. So in order to create that, they may need to make the problem bigger. The reality is a breakup is an opportunity. A lost job is an opportunity. A health issue is an opportunity. Now, that sounds crazy, but it's the truth, because it makes you realign your priorities, and also puts you on deck that there's now a consequence in your life. There's a consequence in your life to your behavior, your actions, and your outlook. Now, here's what's going to get really fucking deep for you. I didn't know this. I just had someone ask me this recently. They're like, oh, tell me your worst relationship situation ever. It's like, I don't know. I don't feel like I had a worse situation. What would you do differently? In my early 20s, I would have got hypnotherapy earlier. Not because I wanted to transform my life. I would have liked to get rid of the gatekeepers. Now, let me explain what a gatekeeper is. And this is a term I've come up with clients with. G Money's on deck. G Money has a situation when he's 6 years old. His older cousin smacks him in the face and tells him his handwriting's horrible. For the rest of his life, if he's not careful, he won't even want to write anything by hand. And he'll always think till he's 45, 65, I have bad handwriting. That's a simplistic view of it. We all have these things. Someone planted a seed when you were a kid, or when you were a teenager, said something in a traumatic moment by an authority figure, and now you've made that a rule of your life, and you have a gatekeeper sitting at that spot. Hey, G Money, your handwriting is shit. Okay. Now, handwriting is not very useful these days. It wouldn't be a big thing to lose because everyone types everything. The gatekeepers are bigger when it comes to affecting your life. So for example, I just had a client that originally came to me for breakup stuff. We ended up working together this last year once a week. Did a lot of hypnosis, a lot of tapping, and we got rid of some of his gatekeepers. And one of his biggest gatekeepers was he was dumb in school, specifically in school. He had been told that he doesn't take tests well. They got him a teacher aide. He went in the class for the kids that aren't smart. The list goes on. This went on for years, right? And his family had a little bit of money, so they even pampered it even more. The teacher even gave him a free pass on things. So he gets to college, and he has this limited belief in his head. We did some hypnosis on it. We went a little deeper. We went back to those moments. And all of a sudden, he's like, I'm studying for 3 or 4 hours at a time. I'm getting A's on tests. I'm doing better in school than ever. And he's like, it's just my belief changed. And he goes, I don't even know how it happened. Right? I don't even know how it happened. Hypnosis has a way of changing your perspective, which is basically everything in the way you make decisions. So your decision making is based on perspective. This is why, and we have a generalization of, well, this person's positive or this person's negative. They're positive and negative about different things. Okay. So just to share a little bit with who's out there right now, how did I get interested in hypnosis? Because in my 20s, I probably would have never done it. I would have thought, oh, where's the necklace? Right. And I get this from people now. They'll go, oh, I've seen it in movies and they make people bark like dogs. All right, whatever. It's been used for a long time. What has happened is the actual term always gets changed. So have you heard of the Silva method out there? That's hypnosis. Michael Seeley, who has a great YouTube channel with guided meditations and sleep hypnosis, it's hypnosis, right? You can change the name. If you want to call it guided meditation, completely comfortable with that. It lines up with that. Just had a client recently. They were skeptical about doing it. We did it at the end of a session. It was a great situation. And she goes, oh, it's more like guided meditation. That's your perspective. That's what you want to call it. That's fine with me. It's the same thing as saying eating fruits and vegetables. Oh, they don't taste good. All right. But I can eat them if they're mixed with honey and yogurt, because those things taste better. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to make it. Yeah, Silva method is based off of a hypnosis principle. Okay. And he knows that. He knows that. It's in his literature. Okay. So it's just marketing and packaging. Sigmund Freud started out with hypnosis. It works. So remember this, everything. Okay. So everything that you're doing in your life, you're soaking in, whether you're interactive or not active. So right now you're being hypnotized by YouTube content, by me talking. If you're engaged in this conversation and I'm keeping your attention, you're soaking it into your subconscious, and it's going to affect some of your decisions possibly down the road if it's deep enough. Right. Now, the part about traumatic events, like, for example, like I said, what's really interesting, I'll share one traumatic event in my own life that I'm completely okay with now, but affected me for a long time. Okay. So this was a gatekeeper for me. And I did a lot of this work on my own by reading books and stuff. I didn't go to a therapist. At the time when I first started exploring this, I couldn't value it money-wise, and I couldn't pay someone $125, $150 an hour. Eventually I did, and it works. So let me give you an example of going back in time. So when I was a kid, I loved sports, all right? Loved football, baseball, and basketball. Basketball was actually last. Football was my first love. I used to play football all the time when I was in grade school. When I'm talking about grade school, I'm talking about elementary school, okay? So first grade, second grade, you go out. I don't know if anyone, two-hand touch, because it was a cement recess area. And then we had like all-time quarterback. I was always all-time quarterback. I loved playing quarterback. I loved football. Okay. And I'd play all the time. I was very coordinated. I was a small kid, right? Nothing wrong with that. Now, I played tackle football for the first time for this league with pads and everything like that. So I think I was about 7 or 8 years old. I don't remember the exact age. Maybe, 7 to 8 years old, I would say. Okay, that's where I'm going to say 7, 8 years old. I was excited about being in this league. I'd played football with friends all the time. And I was getting headaches. Practice for football was in the fall. And the area that we were practicing in had a marsh around it. If you know the Bay Area where I grew up, San Francisco Bay Area, there's a lot of marsh and bayland. And it's very cold at night and windy. And there's a lot of allergies around there. Now I'm realizing that. I used to get these migraine headaches a lot when I was a kid. When I was playing football, I'd get these migraine headaches during practice all the time. Looking back, it could have been the weather. It could have been allergies. I'm thinking it's probably my diet. I used to drink a lot of Sunny Delight and fruit juices that were really sugary, and that could have contributed. Bottom line, I was getting headaches. I was having to sit out of practice, and it was happening once or twice a week. And when you do that once or twice a week, they start thinking, especially in a game like football, like, why are you sitting out all the time? This is a problem. I didn't feel good. And then the headache would get worse because it would be in my head like, oh, it would just build momentum. So my father at the time, ex-Marine, Teamster, truck driver, tough guy, you're just scared of getting hit. We hadn't even started really hitting yet. We were just in calisthenics. We were in running, those kinds of things. He planted that seed. In my head, I remember as a little kid going, that's not it. But he kept pushing that onto me. And then eventually, as the headaches were a problem and we came to a crossroads of quitting the team, which wasn't on my thing either. My dad pushed that on me. And then my dad made me say, I remember this, I was a kid, you're just scared of getting hit. And I could feel in my head like, no, I'm not scared of getting hit. And then I said it. Okay, I'm scared of getting hit. I never played tackle football again in a padded thing like that. We played with friends at the park and things like that, but it stuck with me. Now, here's another layer to the story that's going to surprise you. I also played baseball, Little League baseball. I played shortstop, was leadoff batter. I was pretty good as a little kid. Okay. The first year we had pitchers pitch. So your first year of Little League in a lot of places, the dad pitches or the coach pitches. Not my dad, but a coach pitches. And then you have the first year where kids pitch to each other. Now, the first year that you're pitching to each other, there's a lot of wild pitching, right? So loved baseball, was good at baseball. I get up to bat. It's it's maybe my first or second game batting with live pitching from other kids, and I get beamed. Beam means I got hit hard, right? In the back. I got scared to bat the next time. Now think about this for a moment. What was going through my head? I'm scared of getting hit. I had that theme put in me from my dad for football. Now, this isn't one of those situations where I'm claiming victimhood or blaming my dad, but this is how a seed gets planted, right? And it grows, right? I ended up not playing baseball again. I ended up quitting that sport also. Not something I'm proud of. Not something that's going to make you go, oh, I'd really like you as a coach or to help me out. It's not one of those redeeming stories. But the background of it, if you think about it, and like I said, I don't hold this against my dad or anything like that. I didn't even know it was there until I started doing work on these gatekeepers and these stories in my head. Everyone has them. It's why you're not good at something or you feel like you just can't do something. Okay? Now, there's certain things people just aren't going to be good at. I'm with you. Now, the limitations that you place on some of these things, They're all related to those gatekeeper stories, right? Now, that kind of a story that I just told you, it'll stay with you. So every time you're going to go play tackle football, you're going to be thinking, well, am I scared of getting hit? That got programmed at a young age. It got him. And here's the thing: when you're younger, you get easily programmed because 0 to 7, you're in a hypnotic state. Have any kid that you know that's 0 to 6, look at their eyes for a moment. Their eyes are like this. They're glazed. They're wide open. They're taking everything in as a sponge. They're in a different brainwave. You'll notice babies are like this. They're sponging every feeling, every emotion, everything that you're doing. When you get older, when you get to 7, 8 years old, now you've sponged all those things. Now you've created beliefs of what's wrong or what's right or what's good or what's bad. And now those are going to bake into you making decisions in the future. And this all comes together in affecting your relationship. The tough thing also when you're a kid is authority figures, not just your parents, because everyone, oh, your parents have a huge effect. Your parents, teachers, doctors, what they say is 100% true. It's law. It's absolute. You don't talk back to them. If someone's a doctor, they know everything about health. So finding these things, and now I do a full session where I go through your life. Okay. And I use that with the tapping technique. We go 0 to 30, 0 to 35. And when we find these little stories, these little moments. So that story I just shared with you, I'm okay with it. Dad told me I was scared of getting hit. I know now I wasn't scared of getting hit. I was getting headaches. I really was getting headaches. I wasn't lying about that. Now, I also know now that was imposed on me. I also am okay with the fact that was Dad's makeup. He's a tough guy. He couldn't understand. My dad didn't get headaches. He didn't get it. So he came up with some reason, some narrative. He imposed it onto me. He didn't know it would affect me later on. It basically made me not play football again and not play baseball again. Because as soon as I got hit by a baseball, I was like, oh yeah, I'm scared of getting hit. I didn't know that till later on. It also, on a flip side, contributed to me later on in life. If things didn't go right, I would quit. Not very proud of that. But what I would say is, now I know why. Because sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'll just quit. My dad gave me that out when I was in football, right? And then I did it in baseball. And I had a reason. And there was no consequence to it. Now, if you've ever heard of Joe Montana, who's basically the Michael Jordan of football in my book, one of the greatest players ever, he was in Pop Warner, which is Little League for football. And there's a story that he had where he wanted to quit football. And his dad was like, absolutely not. You're going to finish it out and you're going to do your best. Now, he wasn't getting headaches, but that was just another completely different path that could have been taken. For example, my father could have said, hey, look, we're going to figure out why you're getting these headaches. Where are they coming from? Instead of saying, I think you're scared of getting hit. Is there a reason outside of these headaches that you don't want to practice? That would be like parenting 101 and figuring things out. My dad wasn't trained that way. He's a Vietnam vet and a truck driver. He's not built that way. I'm okay with it now. That's how you do some therapy on yourself. Because if you don't do it right, you could be hating your dad. Oh, dad did this to me. Dad didn't know what he was doing. He was just living his own set of narratives, beliefs, and gatekeepers. Okay? So getting back to this, I'm going to review a few things about hypnosis from this book that I have notes on. I don't think I can pull the notes up from Kindle. I don't know if that's legal, but I'm going to read them off to you. And the book, which is at the top here, is 100% Hypnosis and Guided Meditation. It's a 7-part book. 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 Process-Oriented Hypnosis. Very good book. Very interesting. Good read. Different perspective than a lot of things. I think more useful than a self-help book in a lot of ways. This guy basically is saying that everything we do has a process. Okay, I've talked about this before. It's really interesting when you get down to it. And when you go to take a shower, you don't realize it that you have a process. You get a towel, you check the water, you make sure there's soap. A lot of people, oh, I just take a shower. No, there's a process. You might brush your teeth first. You usually take it before you leave the house. There's order, there's sequence, there's things you do before you take a shower. Take it for granted. Things that are bad habits in your life, things that are bad repetitive actions that you do, and let's say you're consistently needy in texting situations with your girlfriend. There's a process to that. She didn't respond in 10 minutes. Oh my God, she must hate me. Okay, so what's the next process? What's the next process? What's the next step? When you know the process, you can change the process. Or you can go, why am I following this sequence? Right? All right, so let me go through these notes. One of the primary reasons why hypnosis as a treatment tool is so effective is because more often than not, people's problems are ultimately problems of focus. Okay? So what are you focusing on? Now, this is really interesting. Okay, so you don't know what you're focusing on daily, but if you're focusing on failure, layoffs, those kinds of things, and you think you have no power in changing that focus or perspective, you're wrong. They may focus only on what is wrong and thereby miss what's right. They may focus on unchangeable past and missed opportunities, create a different and better future for themselves. So you're always focusing on a trade-off or something you're getting from something. Okay. People do this with cigarettes. They believe that they're getting something from a cigarette, relief, relaxation, comfort. A lot of times, if you look at the process of it, a cigarette's related to taking a break at work, related to taking 10 minutes. There's a process towards it. Now, stay with me. This is a very important line. When any good hypnosis practitioner does, like good therapists in general, as well as to say, in essence, here, you've been focusing on that, and it has caused you significant discomfort. Now, to feel better, you can begin to focus on this instead. And so the hypnotic induction begins. Okay. So you're saying, how do you get me out of this state of focusing on one thing? One of the best ways is metaphor and story. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So a lot of the way we learn things, and this is why people learn things through fables and stories and events, is a storyline, a narrative, or a metaphor. Okay, and I'll share how that works. And the best way to implement a new metaphor or lesson or storyline is through hypnosis when you're listening intently. We all face illness, death, failure, rejection, humiliation, prejudice. I don't even know how to say it. Prejudice. Too many forms of unfairness to count. And so many other reliable sources of emotional and physical pain that could come at us from the outside world. But it's also true that much of the distress people experience isn't extremely generated. Milton Erickson, who is probably the godfather of a lot of hypnotherapy, was asked this question by one of his students. What do you believe the basis of most people's problems? I'm going to say that one more time. What do you believe is the basis for most people's problems? Erickson's one-word answer: rigidity. This is a word I don't use very often. To be rigid. It's one-way thinking. It's provided no alternatives or resources. This is huge when you think about it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm guilty of doing the same exact thing. You're locked in. I can't stop following my ex on Instagram. I can't, which is not true because you're personally capable of that. You're locked in that you can't. You have a gatekeeper. You have someone telling you, you can't do this, man. There's a story attached to that. Well, if I stop stalking my ex on Instagram, they'll never talk to me. You have a microscope and you're looking at one part, one possibility of the situation that actually isn't serving you, right? So I've literally had people where I'm like, well, how about this? How about if we change the story? People have heard me say this. Instead of telling your friends and family that you can't stop Instagram for your ex, how about if we create a situation where you're going on a social media fast for yourself and for your sanity? And then you can look up some research on how social media overall is just not good for you. That's a whole nother perspective, interpretation, narrative for the same problem that maybe gets you out of that. You see what I'm saying? Now, think about your quest to become So, what does rigidity mean exactly? It means someone has a response, a behavior, a cognition, an emotion that doesn't vary even when the context does. Think about that. This is a very proud moment for stubborn people. I don't do that. I just don't do that. I don't do that. Well, how's that working out for you? Well, I don't do that. That's not me. How's it working out for you? Right? You're from a certain area, for a certain neighborhood, a certain upbringing. Well, that's not us. We don't do that. I wasn't raised that way. I've said this before. I catch myself doing this myself. So when I say this, this isn't one of those situations where I've got it all figured out. I'm just more aware of it. I've said before, I'm not a very emotional person. I don't cry a lot. Doesn't mean I'm tough necessarily. When I was a kid, we weren't rewarded for crying. It wasn't something that we got something for. So, and I didn't witness a lot of high level sad emotions from friends or family members, especially family members. I cling to that. But the reality is a good cry in the right moment when you're really upset or hurt by something on your own time is very therapeutic for you. In other words, the person doesn't adapt to changing circumstances in their own detriment. The ability to adapt is one of the keys to mental health. Think about that for a minute. You can watch all these self-help books. You can do the Selva method. You can do all these things. Your ability to adapt is one of the keys to mental health. When circumstances change, but someone persists in a pattern that may have worked before but can't any longer, the results is all too predictably negative. There are many different forms of rigidity a client may display, as is the case. Now, think about this. Someone keeps doing something a certain way because it's worked in the past, but now it no longer works. This is your classic case if we're going to talk about relationships. We broke up, we made up, we broke up, we made up. She left me. It worked before. Oh, when I used the text that said, I hate you, and then they would say, I love you, it worked before, and then you go into new relationships and you use the same playbook. It's It's one of Erickson's primary goals in therapy to create situations, whether through hypnosis or prescribed life experience, such as task assignments or behavioral experiments. Now, this is really interesting. He would give people homework, namely things to do where they would find new significance in themselves. I've done this with clients recently. And one of the best things you can do post-breakup, where can I help someone else? Volunteer work, something like that, because you're so focused on yourself and your results. So let me read that again. It was one of Erickson's primary goals in therapy to create situations, whether through hypnosis or prescribed life experiences, such as task assignments or behavioral experiments, that would make it nearly impossible for his patients to continue doing whatever they were doing rigidly. So many of Erickson's case examples and the case examples of practitioners of Ericksonian therapy are stories of wonderfully creative interventions that promote flexibility as the obvious counter to rigidity. Now, let me give you some examples of this from some of his books. And I'm loosely basing this. I don't have these stories in front of me. There was a woman that he had that was a widow that lived alone in a big house. And she had family members she didn't associate too much with. She was basically a hermit, depressed, unhappy, didn't really like visitors, but she still went to church. So Erickson was called to meet this woman, and he went to her house. He talked to her for a bit, and he noticed that she had, I think they were called African lilies, and I could get the flower wrong. And she had these, and she had a few different plants. And basically, to cut the story down a bit, he told her, this is what I want you to do. I want you to start growing more African lilies, and every Sunday at church, I want you to present those to different people at church. Eventually, this became what she did. She grew those African lilies. She made it a part of church. She ended up growing 200 at a time. It was something she needed. She needed a new significance, a new project, a new path to go to. So this isn't necessarily hypnosis. This is finding something where you find significance and worth and a finish line. So let me get deeper into this. Cognitive rigidity, tenaciously held beliefs despite contrary evidence and reflexive thoughts containing obvious cognition distortions. Behavioral rigidity, persisting in behavior despite it being ineffective. Now think about that statement. Persisting in behavior despite it being ineffective. Emotional rigidity, awareness and decisions made only according to feelings. Perceptual rigidity, reflexive patterns for interrupting the meaning of events. Identity rigidity, a self-definition that precludes the possibility of change. Relational rigidity, a fixed and ineffective style of relating to others. Contextual rigidity, an automatic response to a type of situation. Now, these are typically amplified when the trauma occurs at an early age before there is any substantial means of protecting oneself or processing its significance insightfully. So you have something traumatic happen to you when you're a kid. It processes. Your handwriting's horrible in school. No one ever tells you different. You never get another opinion on that. You never reprocess it. A beautiful thing you can do with hypnosis, you can go back to that moment when your handwriting was bad and tell yourself, you know what? Only one teacher told you that. I can actually write better now. You can have a talk with myself. We can talk about the situation and get deeper. I've had this multiple times where someone goes, oh, my dad did this or my mom did this. We talk about it. We unpack it. We take some layers from it. And then they go, you know what? It wasn't that bad what mom did. It wasn't that bad what dad did. I've just been holding it that way since I was a kid. So now let me give you an example from my own life. When I was about, I believe about 10 years old, 10 or 11 years old, my sister was teasing me, and she had one of her best friends over. She's teasing me about something that was embarrassing me in front of this friend. And the friend I had like a crush on at 10 years old, right? And they're laughing at me. And my great-grandmother was over for dinner. My great-grandmother, not just my grandma, my great-grandmother. She's old. And my grandfather, who was not blood, but we called him grandpa. And my dad, my mom, we're having this dinner. My sister's teasing. She's kind of in my ear. Not everyone's hearing what she's teasing me about. We get done with dinner. The dishes are getting done. And she says something to me. And I slapped her as hard as I could, 10 years old. My sister's like this. We didn't really have that kind of situation with me and my sister. She was 5 years older than me. I didn't do that many times. I'm not proud of saying that now or anything like that. But it was one of those things, if you had siblings before, you might have hit each other, right? My dad gets up, pushes me into the kitchen, into the pantry, and just unloads on me, hits me 3 or 4 times. Now, I didn't get beat unconscious or anything like that, and I'm not looking for any pity on that situation because the story gets deeper. So he hits me like that. I'm embarrassed. I'm crying. I go to my room. My mom brings an ice pack on my eye. I'm okay. Okay? I'm okay. Like, looking back, I'm okay. In the moment, I was pissed. I was upset. I was hurt. I was angry at my sister. I was angry at my dad. It wasn't fair. Did he know what she said to me? And like I said, I'm just embarrassed in front of my grandma. The next day, about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I get a knock. It's my dad. He got home early from work, which wasn't common. Hey, Mac, I want to talk to you. My dad has a really deep voice. And I'm thinking, I'm still upset. I still have feelings. I still got these butterflies in me. I never talked back to my dad. My dad goes, I want to talk to you. And my dad didn't hit me a lot when I was young. He hit me a few times, but not a lot. And I open the door. He goes, hey, I want to talk about what you did yesterday. I said, okay. And in my head, I want to say, you know what she said to me, I don't know what. Didn't say a word. I said, okay. My head's down. Like that. And Dad says, you never hit a woman. Ever. That's why I did that. In that moment, I didn't completely get it. I got it. I soaked it in. Years later, anytime I ever hear about someone hitting a woman or anything like that, I immediately have this built-in gatekeeper that's like, that's wrong. You don't do that. I've never hit a woman in a relationship. I've never hit a woman after that. As a teacher, I taught elementary school for a brief time. There was a little boy that slapped a girl in class really hard. And I got really upset with that kid. Because my gatekeeper is like, you don't do that. I explained to him, you don't hit women. I transferred over that to him. Now, had my dad just left that situation without having that conversation with me the next afternoon, there would be no reason. I would just think I got in trouble because my sister got away with something that's unfair and dad just hit me. He doesn't care. But when I had the reason and the perception changed and stayed with me. That's a good gatekeeper. But we're always creating them, whether they're good or bad. That's one I would want to keep in place, right? So the traumatic event that's not a traumatic event unless it's to you, what are you attaching to that event? right? No matter what the therapeutic approach one might choose to employ, there is one especially important skill that anyone with history of trauma will have to develop. That skill is compartmentalization, the subject of chapter 9. What keeps trauma going in someone's life is when the past continues to bleed into the present. This is big. Contaminating now with what happened then. Many of us do it. That means reacting to current people, situations, feelings, and perceptions from the past trauma's frame of mind. Okay. It is safe prediction that until the client can fully separate past from present and respond on the basis of now, trauma symptoms will persist. Right? Different therapies facilitate compartmentalization in different ways, but they all do it in one way or another out of necessity. Compartmentalization means separating different elements of subjective experience from one another. So everyone's always going to the Rolodex, the Google in your head and going, has this happened to me before? Oh, I remember dad hit me when my sister teased me. That wasn't fair. Oh, but there was a lesson involved in that. Anything traumatic that's happened to you, if you're carrying it years later and relating it to your walks of life now, it's going to keep contaminating you in the same way. Because if you were a victim in a certain situation, and that's what you hold, dad always, let's say I took a different perspective of that. Dad always took my sister's favor. Dad always was on my sister's side, and he would just hit me and not care. I have that perspective. The meaning I found in that moment is positive. There was a lesson involved that I'll never forget. But I could have found a different meaning in it. Hypnosis allows you to go back to certain moments, focus on them, and then maybe be reoriented with new meaning indirectly. Now, there's a lot of beauty in that indirectness, because the problem is a lot of times talking therapy or coaching, which is effective and makes you feel better for a moment, does not redirect the gatekeepers. So you'll find yourself in similar situations over and over again with similar feelings, right? Now, what do I mean by indirect? Right? Someone says, I'm always needy with my girlfriends. Or how about this one? I'm always jealous. Guys that are always jealous, there's always a very easy reason for why they're doing it. Their dad was jealous. Their mom cheated on their dad. They had an ex-girlfriend that was their first girlfriend that broke their heart and cheated on them. They have a reason. And they're just making that true over and over again, or they have abandonment. That's a big one too. They have big abandonment issues. And the ironic thing is a lot of times people that accuse people of cheating are cheaters also. So finding out where that comes from originally and reworking that will change your behavior. Does that make sense? Because you're finding out the process of it. Is everyone with me on this? We got 4 on deck. I'm losing some people. We're getting deep. This is almost like a teaching thing. Let me know if you have any specific questions on these topics. People generally prefer certainty to uncertainty and predictability to chaos. So think about that. People generally prefer certainty to uncertainty and predictability to chaos. So if you've had something in your past, you're always going to go back to that and go, this is probably what's going to happen again. Unfortunately, if you have a lot of bad events in your past, those are bad lessons, bad gatekeepers. Whatever is going on in a client's world, the content, they are concerned by the need to have clarity in a circumstance where there's empty and none to be had. More simply, do people know when they're asking unanswerable questions? Think about that. I saw my ex in a picture. They look so happy. I wonder if they still care about me. That's an unanswerable question. You no longer talk to them. They're no longer with you. You can call them, which would probably cause you more pain, and ask them. Even then, they could lie to you. So when you ask these unanswerable questions that you don't have any grounds to get the answer to, it'll drive you nuts. Too often they don't, so they get angry at authorities who they think should have the answers even though they can't. Or they become ruminators who analyze endlessly while looking for an answer they believe they'll find if they just keep looking or thinking about it. Searching for the answer to unanswerable questions, such as whether there is life after death or why the tornado hit a home but spared your neighbors, is a colossal waste of time and energy and drives up symptoms of both anxiety and depression. As the psychologist and anxiety expert David Barlow said, so much of what anxiety is about is overestimating risks and underestimating resources. You think about resources in the terms of money, food, those kinds of things, right? But you have more than that resourcefully. You have friends, you have family, you have abilities. Your resourcefulness is big in your mental sanity. Okay. Now, helplessness is powerlessness. People who are powerful have choices, while people who are powerless have few or none. But power is about perception. People routinely overestimate how much power they have. I'm going to make you care about this as well as underestimate it. I can't do anything about how I feel. It's a goal of therapy in general to help people make more realistic appraisals of how much power they have in a given situation. This is kind of deep stuff, right? More often than not, this takes the form of helping someone who feels helpless to discover that they have more ability to influence what happens than they realize. For example, why bother go to therapy? Why bother read my therapist's recommended recommendations for books? Why bother to do my therapist's recommended homework assignments? I'm a hopeless case. Knowing how much people's expectations, their orientation to the future, shape their experience, treatment response, it becomes a major goal to help build a positive expectancy. So, someone comes to me and they go, I can't lose weight. Okay. I'm not a dietitian. That's not something I've struggled with a lot in my life. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but okay. What's your reasons? What's your reasons? Metabolism, diet, exercise? And they say, well, I've gone to a couple dietitians and they've told me to do a keto diet, or they told me to do a diet of just vegetables, this and that. I don't like that. And all these dietitians and all these people just keep telling me to do these diets that I don't want to do and I don't believe it. So what's the alternative? Well, I mean, if you went to 2 dietitians, could you go to 3 or 4 and maybe the 4th one has a different plan? Could you be lacking in exercise motivation? Could you do saunas? Could you do ice baths? Instead of going to the gym, could you just walk every day for an hour? There's so many alternatives to just going on a diet to lose weight, right? It's what we do with Google now. We have alternative things, resources. All right. So I've gone all over the place reviewing this book. And maybe this is something I'll do in the future a little bit deeper. But what I will do today is I will review a guided meditation that I've had on my channel, Clean Mind Today, which is a different channel. And guided meditation, like I said before, is a form of hypnosis. Now, how is it helpful to listen to hypnosis or a guided meditation for a breakup? I'm going to break it down to you right here, and I'm going to go through the script of what was written in this guided meditation. If I had more people on deck or someone wants to sit in, I would do a live demonstration of how this works. So the URL is actually at the top of the chat right now. So right there. And if you went to, I'm going to go into this deeper. Clean Mind Today, which is the name of my channel. You can just look it up. My phone died. All right, so let me pull this up. What I'm going to do, we're going to share the screen here. So I'm sorry about this. So this is a guided meditation to get over a breakup. I made it. I constructed it. I wrote it. And I'm going to break it down to you. And hopefully, let's see if we can make this better for you to see. Is that better? So that's the URL. I'm going to break down how this is one way to do it. So hypnosis, guided meditation, there's multiple ways to do it. There's not any one way. There's not any one way to go about this. So just to break down really quick, let me come back to this. Okay. To break down this really quick before we get into this, when you do hypnosis or guided meditation, one form, which I'm going to show you right now, is a metaphor or a story that's not exactly about you, but you can relate to shift your thinking, almost like Aesop's fables. Okay. So, for example, people tell stories a lot of time in public speaking or TED Talks to get someone's attention rather than someone might say, oh, it's not good to be racist. That's a very general, surface-based statement that a lot of people could agree with, but how are you going to get their feelings involved? How are they going to relate to it? Story, a real story, a story that grabs their feelings. Okay, so in this particular case, I'm using a story that some people, not everyone. Now, if you were my client, I would be able to craft a story that's related to you. This was related to a past client. So not everyone's going to have the same story to relate to. But finding a metaphor to change the metaphor you're living by is the key. So for example, if you're like, I can't get my ex out of my mind. She has the best body and I'll never meet another woman that hot again. That's a storyline. That's a narrative that's supported by pictures. And then you'll add to it, oh, I remember when she wore such and such bikini and she did this and this. You're just adding to the story, building the case, making the narrative bigger. But if I present a different narrative to you about a different story, you might be able to take the air out of that balloon, if that makes sense. Okay. If it touches you. This particular meditation doesn't have a ton of views, but I do have multiple clients that said it helped them out a lot moving forward, listening to it multiple times. It's a perspective. I don't know if I would call it a soundbite. What's your definition of a soundbite? When you do a narrative, this is a full story. Okay. So let me see, because I'm going to break this down I'm going to pull up the script is what I have to do. So you can go to script, and you can always read scripts on things. So G Money was saying he went to Michael Seeley's before, and there's a script, certain phrases, certain things. So let me break down this script, right? Now, what we could do, actually, all right. So to start with, wish I could show this bigger. Let me see. Can I? Nah, it's not going to be big enough. All right. So the first part of any guided meditation or hypnosis, to break this down, is the induction phase, just relaxing you. Now, the interesting thing about this is the induction phase for a lot of different people is, someone else calls it guided meditation, hypnosis. There's something called NSDR. Andrew Huberman's like, NSDR, all it is an induction phase, right? So let me just roll with you on this, and I'll go into it a little bit, and and changing my tone. And please, if you like, go ahead and check out my channel, Clean Mind Today, and check out this particular one. And I'll play it for you after I break it down. So the way it starts is something like this. Please take a nice, deep cleansing breath. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let go of the day, whatever has come before and whatever has come today. Let it go. Let it fade into the background. Be centered, grounded, and present in this moment now. And now, if you would, if you're ready, close your eyes. Feel a beautiful golden glow of relaxation settle over you from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Just relaxing. Relax your head, relax your nose, relax your face, relax your hands, relax your arms, relax your chest, relax your eyelids, relax your legs, relax your shoulders, relax your entire body. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're on a beautiful white sanded beach. The waves are softly rolling in. The air is crisp and clean. The sky is clear and blue. The sun is shining bright. You can feel the warmth in your skin. Everything around you is calm, peaceful, and perfect. Then a golden glow from the sun relaxes the top of your head to the back of your head. And down your spine, the golden glow settles over your face and relaxes your face, moves across your shoulders. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your arms are relaxed. Your body is relaxed. You're so comfortable. The glow settles over your chest, relaxing all your internal organs. And it pours down your legs to the tips of your toes, relaxing your body deeper, deeper. You find yourself surrounded by this beautiful golden glow, and you begin to relax deeper, 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 deeper as I count. 10, 9, 8. Feeling thankful. 7, 6, 5. Feeling good. 4, 3. Feeling at complete ease. 2 and 1. Now I'd like to tell you a story. A story that might help you. A story that maybe you could relate to. A story to listen to when you can't stop thinking about your ex-girlfriend. And it starts like this. I knew a guy who had broken up with his girlfriend. He said she had treated him bad. Real bad. She talked down to him at times. She hung out with a bad crowd with some bad friends. But they were her friends. It was her crowd. And this crowd, these friends, her boyfriend didn't really like. She also liked to drink too much, which wasn't something the guy was opposed to, because actually there was a time in his younger years where he too liked to drink. But he was well past that place, well past that place in his life. Certainly didn't like his girlfriend drinking too much. But it wasn't the only problem, or even the main problem. Just one of the problems. One of the many problems he had in the relationship with her. But as the days and months went by, this guy really missed his ex-girlfriend. He would dream about her. He would think about her. He would dream about her. And he had somehow stopped thinking about why he broke up, or why they broke up in the first place. And all he could think about was how much she loved him, how much she was there for him, and how great their sex life was, and how great spending time with her was. He had let go of the reasons, the valid reasons, the drinking, the bad friends. He had let go of the reasons for breaking up with her. She had done some really bad things to him, said some bad things, some things that hurt him. And now he wondered and wished if they could get back together. After all, she did really love him, and he loved her. And above all, he couldn't get that attraction he had for her out of his mind. From time to time, they would talk on the phone. from time to time. She was out of his mind, but in his mind. And she would let him know that she didn't want to get back with him, but she didn't want to be in a relationship with him anymore. But she did let him know that she still thought about him and even missed him sometimes. But she felt like the relationship wasn't something to revisit. It wasn't a relationship she wanted to go back to. He would write her long emails declaring he always loved her. Sometimes he wouldn't send the emails. And he would say, "Now I'm letting her go," after writing that last email. He'd feel good for a day, like he had ended his addiction, this addiction of thoughts, wishes, and hopes of being with her again. Then days later, he'd be haunted and addicted again, thinking daily and nightly, nightly and daily. Nothing was working. His mind was clouded with constant thoughts of just wanting her back as his girlfriend. As his girlfriend. He would think and think what could be and what was so great in these past thoughts of what was a great relationship. And then one day he was going for a walk at a local park. He met a wise old man who was puffing on a cigar and having a coffee. The man had called him over to the park bench he was at. He asked the young man, "What's on your mind, son?" The younger man was skeptical, as he didn't normally talk to strangers or old men puffing on cigars in the park. But for some reason, he found the old man to look wise. So he took a seat next to him, took a sigh, and closed his eyes for a moment. The old man waited patiently. Then he told him, "I really miss my girlfriend." His ex-girlfriend. That he wanted her back. And that he couldn't stop thinking about her. The old man puffed his cigar, digesting the information, the feelings from the young man. The old man asked, "Well, does she want you back?" The man responded, "She calls me sometimes. But no, she doesn't want me back." The old man nodded and said, "Okay. Okay." Pausing for a moment as he puffed his cigar, then he said, "I understand you completely. We always want what we can't have, or even worse, what we once had but now can't have. It's a law of human nature. I too battled it in my early years, but then started to understand and realize that I was taking up a lot of space in my mind's living room. I too had a breakup. I too had a breakup with a woman that kept hanging out in my mind's living room. He paused, puffing his cigar. Would you like to know how I cleared the furniture from my living room? The young man responded, yes, please. Help me clear my mind. This ex-girlfriend, this woman I can't stop thinking about. The old man nodded. Okay. This is what I did. I accepted that my mind was just scared. Really scared that if I let go of this furniture, that if I let go of this woman, this lady, this girlfriend, this ex-girlfriend, then I would never find such furniture again. That I'd never find such a woman again. That I would never find such a girlfriend again. I actually looked in the mirror and told myself, you will never meet another woman like her. You will never meet another one like her again. And you'll never find furniture for your living room that was that comfortable. You'll never find a woman that brings you that much attraction, love, and you'll never find furniture that brings you that much comfort, memories. He paused and puffed on his cigar. You know, my furniture was passed on to me from my mother. And it was her mother's in France. The furniture was special. It was special to me. It was special to my mother. You couldn't find furniture in a store that could equal those memories, or the fondness my mother had for that furniture, or the fondness I had for that furniture. But there came a time I'd have to let go of that furniture, as my living room wasn't big enough. And really, it wasn't practical furniture for me. It wasn't working for me. I was just holding on to this furniture for sentimental reasons. I thought the furniture had memories, but I realized that my memories were always available. They were always available to me. And better yet, I could reshape those memories, reframe those memories. Man paused, puffing on a cigar. You see, if I was ever going to get new furniture, I had to accept that my old furniture was indeed special, but it wasn't the only furniture in the world. So I embraced that although that furniture was special, it wasn't irreplaceable in its use. After all, a couch is for sitting and laying, table is for drinks or to put my feet up, and chairs, well, chairs are primarily used for sitting. And a good girlfriend is not used the same as furniture. In fact, don't use your girlfriend. You don't use your girlfriend. You love and accept her for who she is and what she really wants. You respect her feelings. Part of loving and accepting her is letting her go. Letting her go for you to go when she no longer wants to be with you. But the one thing your girlfriend, your ex-girlfriend, the one thing they have in common with your furniture is that they are replaceable. You can find new chairs to sit on, a new couch to lay on. You can find a new table to put drinks on. The old man paused again, taking a puff from his cigar. Now looking at the man's eyes with conviction and strength, he said, "You can find a new girlfriend too. One that loves you and you love them. One that you are highly attracted to as they are to you. You've done it before. I've done it before. You'll do it again." The man took a moment, nodding his head at the old man, understanding completely that he had just told him, digesting it, processing it. It was time to let her go, make space for new furniture and a new girlfriend. Time to accept the breakup, to accept the fact that he was really capable of meeting a new girlfriend. And just as he could get new furniture, he can get a new girlfriend. Feeling lighter and brighter, as if he had completely let go and accepted the breakup. He now had more space in his mind's living room for a new girlfriend, one which will respect him and love him, care about him as he would her. He's relating to this story in a good, positive light. You begin to wiggle your toes, feeling good. Wiggle your fingertips, feeling great, strong. Moving your head up and down. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, open your eyes and realize all is well. All is well. Was anyone able to get into trance with that? Now, we have 6 on deck. Was anyone listening to that all the way through? That is a complete script. If you want to watch that with music in the background, which it sounds a little bit better. Go to Clean Mind today, and I put now to break that down a little bit, if you're interested. Let's see here. You have an induction, which is just calming you down. Relax your legs, relax your arms. This is very simple to do. And usually if a person is an authority figure or someone you respect or someone you have rapport with, you will generally listen and you will calm down immediately. Now, if this is some random person, this is why hypnosis gets a bad rap, because they're like, oh, people weaponize it or use it against you. If you don't like what someone's saying, and a lot of times this was particularly made for someone that had furniture as a sentimental thing and had girlfriend issues. So it was made for a particular client. Now, saying that, other people can relate to it, but you can see how a story is being told. But if you notice, what I did was, instead of just saying, oh, just get a new girlfriend, you related to something like furniture. Now that takes the focus off the girlfriend so much. And then what it does is it changes the rigid story you have in place. My ex won't come back. She's the greatest. She's this. Now you've got furniture involved in missing an ex. You got an old man telling a story. Now you've changed up some of the dynamics of the way you're holding the whole thing. And so what I say is, like, it's like a clogged sink, and we want to loosen up that sink so it can get through. And a story like this, listened to 3-4 times, can do that. Is the person going to be walking on air and forget all about their ex? No. But can they get rid of that rigid hold of, oh, I'll never meet someone like this again. I can't stop thinking about them. There's a new perspective with a story like this. The story's not, when you use stories and metaphors, it's not going to apply to everyone. So, like, people in the live stream that are not really going through a breakup right now, it's not going to land as much with you. Okay. What I did with that, I'm just giving you the whole thing. The induction part is very simple. It's just relax your legs, relax your arms. There's different ways to do that. I can put you in I can describe Hawaii to you. I can describe an island. Thank you, Petty Betty. The furniture part, like I said, that's how you mix a metaphor that seemingly doesn't seem to have anything to do with what you're talking about, but then it ties in. Because what happens is you want to camouflage that metaphor. There's an art to this, or story, because a lot of people, the minute you say, hey, just meet someone else, that's so surface-based. That doesn't overcome the fact that you miss your boyfriend or girlfriend. Does that make sense? Now, if I tell a story that gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're kind of going, well, where's this going? Now you're going to either get it or not get it, but most likely it'll affect you in a different way than me giving you surface information with no story. There's people out there that take directions really well. They're in the military usually. You can just tell them, do this, do that, and they'll do it, right? And these are the kinds of people like Jocko Willink that are like, hey, just get over your ex. Just put your mind to it. There's a lot of people out there that need a storyline to it, that need some kind of other massaging to it. So like I said, this furniture story, some other people be like, I don't like the furniture part. Okay, it's not going to land with everyone. It was written for a specific person that had a sentimental value to their family's furniture. Other people can relate to it. So you tie that in, and what you're doing is you're reshaping that rigid, hard feeling that you can't get over your outlook. What you don't realize is that when you're stuck or when you feel like you can't do something, there's a trade-off and there's a narrative that you're just playing on repeat, right? And surface-based information like, don't do that, you don't like that, right? It's just another way to find a reason. And during hypnosis, what happens is you're really able to turn off your other senses and go inward. So when that story is being told to you, you can feel it deeper. There's a lot of value in that. It's really what people used to do before there was TVs and all these other things. Now, if you go on TV and go 2-3 hours and watch all these instructional videos, your mind just goes in 8 different directions. It's a lot of surface-based stuff. So that's a little bit of a peek into how I would do a live hypnosis with someone. That's one version of it. That would be one where you wouldn't do any talking. You'd just be listening and relaxing, and that's available on Clean Mind Today, my channel. So that's one version of it, okay? Now, the part that's special is when you get something tailored. You get a metaphor or a story tailored to what your problem is. And now what you're doing is, like that story that I told about the furniture with the old man puffing a cigar, don't think I threw in the cigar by accident either. The individual that I wrote that for loved cigars and liked walking in the park. So he would be more apt to like that older gentleman because he was having a cigar. So that's why I threw that in there. Also, the story is mixing you up a little bit. Because did you notice how I would go from Mind's living room to breakup to X? So it's breaking apart that rigid thinking about the X and recreating the story to be in a different direction, to make more space for new furniture, to realize that chairs, tables can be replaced. And really, people don't like to hear this, but girlfriends and boyfriends can be too, right? And that's just a new perspective to look at it. If chairs and so like Rob, if Rob hates the smell of cigars, this particular meditation or hypnosis would not land well with him because he'd just be going, oh, that's disgusting. Now, when you get something done for you, it's totally different. So if you came to me, we do a session and I tailor a hypnosis for you, it's going to land because I'm going to ask you the questions that it's going to make it special for you. And that's very important. So people ask me a lot of times, how did you end up in Thailand? By chance, a hypnosis that I did with a hypnotherapist in San Francisco, she asked me to imagine a place I wanted to go to, and it was Thailand. Now, that wasn't one of those things where I was trying to manifest that. It was on my mind at the time. 6 months later, I moved to Thailand in the place that I imagined. Right? And from our sessions, which I've adopted a lot from that particular hypnotherapist, from those sessions, I could feel a shift in my thinking that was stuck. And this is why I believe in it so much. All right, we have Petty Betty on deck, Rob, May, Roller Girl listened. Anyone listen all the way through? Any questions about hypnosis for me? Any thoughts? Was it hard for you to get into that? Because I didn't really warn you that I was going to get into it, especially when you close your eyes, right? Someone can just come on. Your insurance is cheaper if you smoke cigars instead of cigarettes. That's probably true. I mean, there's a lot of people, Winston Churchill, the guy that led Cuba, those people lived in their 80s and smoked cigars. And cigars, I think you don't inhale. Maybe there's less chemicals to that. Thanks for mentioning that. Looks like we got the usual. Oh, Cindy Daniel, how are you? From lovely California. What part of California are you in? G Money, hope you're well. Vaping. That's become popular, hasn't it? This is something new that I did breaking down this hypnosis thing. Like I said, anyone that has any questions or curiosities or just feedback on the thought of, did you learn something new? Was it interesting to you? Or is this something you'd want to do in the future? It works really good for manifestation, actually, and breaking bad habits Phobias, this is very easy to do. So that's a really good question, Rob. Well, you certainly could use it in a manner of can you elaborate, May, on how exactly do you use it? Can you get a little more detailed on what your question is? Because I don't want to answer it and it's just a little vague. So what I would do in that case is I would have a session with you and I would ask you what are some things that are bothering you about the developing. I'd have to ask you what about that relationship, so that I'm always going to come back to tailored advice. If you notice something, what's happening on YouTube a lot of times with some of the, especially some of the new channels, I think even the love chat's doing this, they're deferring to BetterHelp. So they get they go, oh, my channel has all this information, but use this person and then I get money from them. So one thing I'm going to be doing, you'd be asking me this, I wouldn't go, oh, go to the therapist and see that. I need to sit down and talk to you about what do you want the relationships to develop to? Where is it at right now? And then maybe what are some of your limited beliefs or some of the anxieties you have moving forward? And then we could create a guided meditation on that. And we could do something in the effect of manifestation, simple, and just it's a visualization. So I'm taking you through like a lucid dream about what you want the outcome to be. That's the simple thing to that. It works. Does it work always? No, because people are different. It works quite well. The other part would be that's what would come to mind first, is probably doing something that was a descriptive situation where things worked out between you two. Now, if you had a separate issue where you're like, hey, I'm needy or I'm very jealous and I want to work on this because my relationship's developing right now, I don't want to get out in front of this, that would be a different thing that we would work on. About tapping, you said tapping's a separate thing, but I do incorporate it in a different format. So hypnosis and guided meditation, it's used in different formats. That was just one. So that was a very simple one. There was induction, which inductions, close your eyes, relax your arms, relax your legs. That's one version of induction. Some clients of mine, I can go, just close your eyes, relax, and they'll get right into it. Depends on how good our rapport is. Depends on how much of an authority figure you look at me as, and you trust me, and how comfortable you are. So like this, a lot of people ask me like, how do you do this online? Actually, it works great. And people in their rooms are more comfortable than any other place a lot of times. So the version with tapping would be a whole different thing. Maybe I'll do that for a different show. And if someone wanted to volunteer and do it in front of me, where I do the tapping technique with a hypnosis at the end, I could probably do that actually right now. It'll take me about 30 or 40 minutes and I can collect the information. Petty Betty, you've already done one with me. So if someone is feeling brave and they want to do it, I'll do it with you right now and give you an example of it. But tapping is a different thing, but you can mix it in. But I can demonstrate that also. And like I said, phobias is like if you have a fear of lightning or fear of the dark. I think Petty Betty had a fear of the dark that we worked on, and it's not there anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. And literally those things just are like really easy. Like you locked in on some phobia when you were young, and then if you just unlock that or unclog that sink, it's like, oh, for some reason I'm not scared of thunder and lightning anymore. I had someone that was scared of spiders. We did one session, it was gone. Those are easy. Okay, so if Rob just says, like, for example, someone's over anxious, so the characteristic that you get over anxious in most relationships, right? So let's unpack that. If you came to me, you're like, I get over anxious. Now, instead of me just going, oh yeah, oh, you're anxious, oh, you have anxiety, oh, you have attachment theory, such and such, I would say, all right, so give me some examples of that. What's being anxious to you? Like, what is that? What does that look like? Because it's different for different people. How does that start? Where does that come from? The best thing is to give me an example, right? So what you could create in that situation is maybe I could create a story that I could tell you that could be related to that. So let me tell you a different version of the story that people really like. People that have really big issues with abandonment. Abandonment is a big one, right? And the perspective from abandonment is, you don't care about me, you're always going to leave me, it's not fair, right? Those are some of the narratives. You get a lot of anxiety from that. I don't have abandonment issues, but I know a lot of my clients that have had them, and it's tough. And there's a story about bears, and I have it on one of my Clean Mind Today. And basically, it's told in a narrative and a tone with music so that all draws you in deeper. But I'm not going to tell the story right now, actually. I'll save it for another post because it's really good. Rob, hypnosis without tapping more effective. The way I've you don't need tapping for hypnosis to be effective. Okay, so my Clean Mind Today channel, which will give you a taste of some of those, I don't use tapping at all. When I'm doing a live session, I'll incorporate both in something that I've put together myself, my own recipe, my own trademark thing that works really well and pretty much puts you in a situation that glides you into a hypnotic trance state that's really comfortable, because the tapping is basically just taking really easy directions and leads from me. But the tapping used separately is a great tool because it takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes and it unwinds uncertainty, and it unwinds conflicted, uncongruent thoughts, if that makes sense. And so a lot of our problems, myself included, is when you can't get congruent. You want to make a lot of money, but you don't like rich people. So you see how that's incongruent? So you have to say, even though I want to make a lot of money, I can still do it with integrity. You got to come up with that even though statement. Maybe I'm going to do I'm an hour and a half in. Maybe I'll do a tapping show a different time. I know what Rob will say. Oh, I don't have any problem. Yeah, some people do cannabis for anxiety, sure. Is he still on the couch roller, girl? One thing you got to know about therapy or any work you do, right? Is if your environment. So, for example, let's say someone goes to jail. Someone goes to jail and they deserve to go to jail. They robbed a bank, they stole a bunch of money, and they assaulted the security guard. Okay. Most people can be like, all right, and the security guard had a family, like he deserved to go to jail. He or she deserved to go to jail. And the reason they said they went to jail is because they had a drug issue. And so they were trying to support their habit. And so they stole this money. Okay. Go to jail for 3 years. They read the Bible. They don't ever want to go back to jail again. And they feel bad about stealing and assaulting that security guard. They're sorry for that. So they come back and they have no place to go. So they move in with their cousin, who's a drug addict and is the person they used to do drugs with? What's going to happen? Are they going to be strong enough to hang out with that cousin or live with that cousin and not fall into the drug again? Environment, if you're going to push yourself back into the same environment with the same people, chances are the same result's going to happen. So unless you get that guy off your couch, roller girl, your life's not going to change, because you're reliving all your problems with him every single time. Does that make sense? So this fear of being alone, book a session. Let's work on it. Let's give me a shot at this. I'll give you your money back if you don't want to do it. But your fear of being alone, not meeting a good guy when my final leaves my couch, that's restricting you from kicking his ass out. You might think, oh, I feel sorry for him. Oh, he has no place to go. But really in the back of your head, you're also validating it with the fear of being alone and not meeting a good guy. So if you have a fear of being alone and not meeting a good guy, instead of having nothing, I'd rather have this lump on the couch. Does that make sense? And there's some kind of story there, roller girl. There's some deeper work to be done there. There's some kind of story, some kind of gatekeeper you're clinging to, hun, that's keeping you in that clogged sink. This is why I wanted to do a long version, because this is the kind of work I'm doing now with more clients. I've done it with Petty Betty. It's deeper. It's different. It's longer benefits. It's better for your relationship. It's probably the biggest reason that people stay in a poisonous, toxic relationship is a fear of being alone. It's a real thing. But what you don't realize is you've been alone before. Is the state of Virginia considered the North or the South? That's a great question. Thanks for sharing that. Weren't you afraid of the dark and now you're not? Am I accurate in that? Did we get rid of that for you, Petty Betty? Yeah, book a session, roller girl. If you can't afford it right now, you can do payments. What's up, AP? How are you? Thank you for saying thank you. You are appreciated, my friend. You in a breakup right now, AP? Have you called me before? I haven't seen you on the... What you realize when I'm talking about this is that if whatever you're doing right now, okay, self-improvement books, advice from multiple YouTube channels, maybe you're going to a private therapist, if it's not working, don't be rigid about it. Find something else. To me, in my experience, not just being the practitioner, hypnotherapy, guided meditation gets layers deeper. So the thing is when you're like, oh, I'm just like this, we got to figure out why you're just like this. You know, I'm this kind of person because it's way deeper than the, you know, I'm a compassionate person. Where does that come from? I don't know. There's always a story from when you were a little kid or something that was the seedling of your belief or who you are now. When I was a little kid, I've probably said this before. Uh, my dad was a bad alcoholic, right? We were going to a funeral for my uncle who had just died. And it was traumatic for my dad. It was my dad would never call it traumatic. Uh, and I was 5 or 6 years old. I was young. My dad had just quit drinking for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. My dad was in and out of rehabs when I was a little kid. Um, and of course, when his brother died, he got drunk. And he didn't just get drunk, he was drinking liquor, like bottles of liquor. And my dad was a beer drinker. And I'm 5 or 6 years old. My mom's scared because my dad's drunk. And like I said, he just lost his brother. We're going to the funeral in a few hours, or the wake, I guess you'd call it, like open casket. And he had died in his early 30s, late 20s. It wasn't expected. I won't go into the details of that. And he's drunk, and you could just feel the tension as a kid with mom. And I just said, hey, Dad, I don't think Uncle Frank would like you drinking. I don't think he would like it. And I said, huh? What? I don't think he'd like it. My mom looks like my dad's going to get all upset with me. Okay, yeah, my dad keeps drinking. My dad didn't really react to it. But my mom, when we went to the wake, told that story to like 3 different people. Like, she was so proud of me for saying that to my dad. She's so proud. My mom was a great mom, but she didn't have a lot of things that she would be chummy or quote unquote proud of me. It just wasn't her style. Now, when I go back, and you can do this in your own life, why do I think this? And I ask myself, why do I like helping people? Why do I like listening to people's stories? Why do I go out of my way and make this my job? Because people ask me, why would you want to be listening to people's problems? That story comes up as the first time. And a lot of times you are persuaded by something early in your life where you got credit, recognition from a family member or someone of authority. So I'm not saying that that's the only reason why, but it comes up. It was the first time that got recognition for something like that. That's how it works. That's peeling back layers and realizing who you are and why you operate the way you do. When someone just goes, hey, get over it, that is extremely surface based. And some people can. Some people they can, like I said, military people, they can get orders. Tell me what to do exactly and I'll do it. There's some people that works for them. Like one statement. Most people need a metaphorical story. They need to go a little deeper. They need to have feelings involved to make a shift. And that's where my work's headed now. It's totally different. No worries, roller girl. All the best with that. All the best with that. Sometimes we know what to do right, but there's no such time. All right. Any closing comments or questions? Give it a minute. This was a long-winded. Put this in there. Bees on a milk carton somewhere. Roller girl, that's good that you feel good about that, and just feel good as yourself. You're an individual too. That relationship doesn't define you, hun. And if you're leading with good intentions right now and you feel like you're doing the right thing, good for you. Good for you. All right, folks, feel free to check out Clean Mind Today. Let me know in the comments if you have questions about hypnosis or how this works. I know it's kind of one of those things where people have a lot of ignorance. Ignorance just means I don't know what I don't know. And so they make assumptions based on TV shows or the one time they've seen it. What I would say is be skeptical, but try it. And if you want a taste of it, go to the guided meditation channel. Mine's Clean Mind Today. There's other ones out there, and that's a form of it. Now, where hypnotherapy really works is when you get it for you. When someone tailors a story or a response for you while you're in a trance, or basically, if we want to just dumb it down, just a calm state. And the only way you're available, what I do on the other end is just create a calm tone, a calm feeling in myself. And what happens is it's just like when you're around people, if someone raises their voice, let's say you're hanging out with your buddies in a bar or your girlfriends in a bar, and everyone's loud and you've been drinking, you'll raise your voice automatically too. You'll raise your energy automatically too. If someone starts yelling and screaming in your face, you'll raise your energy too. It's the same thing with hypnosis like this. If I drop my tone, if I drop my energy into a calm space and we're dialed in together, you'll join me. You see how that works? All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. I appreciate you all. Like I said, if you want to book a live coaching session, go to rightmac.com. If you want to book a hypnotherapy session, that's available too. Are you going to eat now, Mac? Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea. I haven't eaten yet. And what about you, Petty Betty? I can. Yeah, you want to talk after? I'll email you after this, and we can discuss that. All right, folks. It's been good. It's been grand. It's curtains.